boats in the hood fashion. I don't know what happened, but it's finally had its last day. Anything goes wrong, the emergency exits are here, 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 and here, just pretty much anywhere. Well, morning guys. It's been a while. I'm sorry I haven't posted much content. Just life really. A lot of work coming up till Christmas. Not only that, every time we get a chance to get out in the water, it's just been storms. Really put a dark cloud over boating here on the Gold Coast. Today's actually the first day that the sun's been out in like nearly a week and a half. I am meeting a friend at a meeting spot in his new boat. That's going to be something exciting to see. It's just me and the Sootster today. Lots of jet skis on the water today. I was flat out getting my boat on the bank. If we run into a few jet skis, we'll show them 2 strokes, boss. Buckle up. That's it. Yeah. Someone forgot to tie their boat up to the dock properly. You're going for a swim. Jet skis to the rescue. Yeah, that's him. I can see him on my phone. Can't believe how clear this picture is from so far away. Yeah. cruising. .21 bullet. Twin Pro Maxes. Cable steer.
I don't know.
Boatz in the hood fashion. My lift pump's shit itself. The pickup pump that draws from the tank, the aeromotive one's shit itself. We've got Leo here helping me try hook up the pulse pump to keep us going. Just coming through some heavy chop there. I don't know what happened, but it's finally had its last day. But it's always an adventure. FML. Yeah, so my lift pump there's obviously had its last day. Leo's bypassed my pickup pump into the water separator, and then luckily I left the pulse pump on the motor, even though it was just blocked up each end. We've cut the fuel lines and rehooked up the pulse pump. Leo's done a lot of racing, and he told me, because I don't have the primer bulb to get the fuel up into the VST to prime it, so he just told me to get the hose, my overflow hose, and blow in it. So I gave it a big...
You what now?
Big blow into the hose.
That's what she said. That's what she said.
Like you were to have a bong, I guess. But it all come good, Leo. Legend. Back in action, baby. Whew.
That's right, that's right.
I went back into the money. Sorry. No, that's all right. I went. Yeah, because I no, that's okay. Yeah. No. This has got the same size. It's still out that whole mould, but he's changed all the mould now. Still have to take it back out.
Well, that concludes another day out in the water. Wasn't completely action-packed, but we had our fair share of dramas. It's always an adventure on the water, but we made it back under our own steam. On the way back there, definitely didn't like getting overtaken by an Evinrude. Was a bit hesitant to really step on it there, because I'd really prefer to put like a new diaphragm kit through it. But all in all, good day. I hope you like what you get to see. I try to bring as much content as I can to you when I can. It takes a lot of effort. I don't know if anyone else out there that's making content, what really goes into it, but it's a lot. Hope you like what you see, and thanks again for your support. Give us a like, comment, subscribe. It all makes a difference. What do you reckon, Soot? Welcome back again. So last time I seen you and I was out in the dark night. I did try to go out again with the pulse pump running and had no luck. As soon as I put my foot down, it'd run out of fuel and it'd die. So that was telling me that that pulse pump that was on the motor was only just done enough to get us home. I went ahead and I put a new pickup pump in the boat. Unfortunately, as you can see, the weather behind me, it's been raining constantly. Like, there was meant to be a ski boat run today and I was going to go to it, but as soon as I woke up it was just absolutely pissing down. But Saturday morning I was able to get out for half an hour before the rain became too much, and the boat did perform and do what it was meant to do. So it is ready to give a good kick in the guts and see what it can do. But probably going to take advantage of this rainy weekend to just tidy a few things up. Yesterday after I come back in, I seen some of the bog and filler had fallen out of my lower unit, so I'll probably spend today pulling the lower unit off and sanding it and reshaping it again, but I'll give you a look. So it's pretty common for sometimes for these to crack. We're always running in salt water here in Australia, so obviously I haven't done that perfect, and some water's been able to get in and penetrate behind that. I have seen some people online, when they put a nose cone on here, they will bog all the way up to here. I didn't really do that. I added in the bulk of it where it needed to be and thinned this out pretty well on this nose cone, but this time after I sand it and repair it, I'll show you, I'll probably bog right up to the front of the nose cone here to try and give it some more longevity. Starting to get really wet in the rain out here. I'll keep you updated as I repair this nose lower, and hopefully we'll get some good weather to get out on the water again soon. Well, here we are, another week's passed. It's Friday afternoon. I've spent all week sanding. Sanding my mind, sanding out of my mind. I'll give you a look at this lower unit for the Dark Knight. As you know, all the bog fell out of here. I did earlier in the week lay all new bog on this, but I didn't put enough hardener in it and it didn't set. It was still soft to touch, so I had to dig that all out again and start again. So I've used this metal bog for the initial filling of the deep crevice here, and then I'll go over it with some finer car filler, just so it's got the stronger stuff underneath, and then we'll put the smoother stuff over the top. Well and truly sick of sanding. I probably won't be able to get it sanded and in a finished product and painted to be able to go out in it on the weekend, but we do have this bad boy. I've picked up the missing pieces. I need to take this out on the water, but obviously the Thundercat build is going to be another video, so bit in between videos here, doing two different ones at the moment, but got plenty of content coming for you guys, and I'll keep you up to date the best that I can, whether you like watching the process of all the bullshit that I go through or not. I really appreciate it. Looking at the algorithms, usually when I post a video there's nearly 700-800 of yous that are return viewers, so once again I can not express enough how much I appreciate the support and the return followers that come back to check out the videos. And 2025 is going to be a good year. Going to get involved in just about every event I can and do a lot of racing. Yeah, look forward to the new year and wish everyone else the best year to come as well. So we have our second coat of filler on top of that. Cake that on, let it dry, and then we'll give it a sand and should be ready for some primer. Alright, so upon sanding this lower unit that I've got here, I noticed a bit of a sus crack on the skeg, and we all know my luck with boats, and I don't really want to run the gauntlet if the skeg has a possible crack and could become further worse. As you can see, it's very minute and a hairline. I'll just put a texture mark around it. It hasn't penetrated the other side, but I just don't want to run the gauntlet of that getting worse, because if we lose our skeg, obviously it'll be Jesus take the wheel, and we don't want that. I'm lucky I got some good mates on my side. I can message poor Simon at like 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday, and as always he bounced straight out of bed and come to the rescue, so I'm very appreciative of friends like Simon. He's going to touch this up for me and we'll give you a look at the finished product, and I can continue sanding and try to get this back on the boat to get back out in the water. Okay, so the day after, a lot of sanding and painting, but the lower unit's complete now, so we can get back out on the water. Remember that big patch of bog falling out? I mean, it's a bit rough and ready, but it'll make do. And just on this port side, I had some orange paint lying around on the shelf there, and so what I've gone and done, and I've painted the prop shaft height on my gearbox there. So I run one of my cameras here on the back of the boat, so in hindsight I'm going to be able to monitor the lower unit and see at different speeds and different events as to where I am running through the water. So that might be a little helpful tip for me to gain some data moving forward in the future. It's all done there now, ready to go. We'll put on the muffs and give it a flush, because I didn't flush it since last weekend, because I just wanted to get this gearbox done. Australia Day at Wave Break. Some of the boys. Guys, once again, welcome back. Constant updates. So after me and the missus and Sooty tried to go out on Australia Day in the morning, obviously you've seen in that footage when I tried to take off in the morning, the boat was lugging and gargling like it was getting too much fuel or something. I even pulled over and turned the fuel pressure down on my boat, and it still didn't seem to make a difference getting onto the plane there. But if I held my foot flat for long enough, it eventually got through it and would get on the plane. But I was very hesitant to really stand on the loud pedal or give it anything more. So a couple of things that I am going to do is I've got new spark plugs, so I'm going to put new spark plugs in the boat. Another thing too is I've got like a micron filter in the back of my boat here. My lift pump, which feeds to the water filter separator there. My fuel regulator here. But over at the back here, I've got another filter just there. So I'm going to get rid of the gauze filter within that. I haven't checked it in a while, so whether or not it's got some residue or contaminants in it built up, I'll pull that out and have a look. And that same Australia Day morning, I just thought I'd give my Mazco 28 pitch chopper a clean up because I had a lot of black stuff on it from the exhaust. I don't know if you can see in the sunlight there, but it's developed a very small crack. So I need to get that repaired from my good mate Jaram. He'll sort that out and fix that up for me. But that morning I swapped over to this 26 pitch Spinelli 4-blade. It's a considerably big prop. The diameter on that, you know, it's tipping around 15.5 inch. It's almost touching the cav plate even. It's a big prop, and not only that, but it doesn't have the exhaust relief holes where some people are able to either put caps in or take caps out to allow the exhaust to generate slip and cavitation, which I've come to realize. So I'm hoping that just that big prop without any relief holes was lugging and loading the motor on takeoff. I have had this prop on once before and I never experienced that issue, but whether or not with the finer tuning of my setup that it's had an effect on it, I can't be sure. But I've recently purchased a 26 pitch chopper and a 28 pitch chopper. Hopefully they'll arrive in the mail soon. I'll be able to throw them on. I just didn't want to risk throwing a blade on that 28. I'd rather get it fixed. But I'm gonna just do those changes, and then I'll throw some cameras on the boat and we'll drop it in. We'll see if it makes a difference and gets rid of that gargling on takeoff. So I've pulled these plugs out. I'll just give you a look. So they're not terrible. They've actually got not a bad tinge to them. Pretty close to where you want them to be. They've got a little bit of gold tinge there. They seem alright. But before I put these new plugs in, I'm going to grab my camera and I'm going to just inspect the crowns of the pistons and see what the wash is revealing. So I've checked the wash on those pistons. The crowns of the pistons, they look fine. A very light coat of like carbon build up and slightly clean near the port, so that's a good sign. It might be minutely rich, but that could have just been the way that it was playing up and loading up the last weekend when I took it out. So I've removed this 10 micron filter, which was in the middle. I don't think it's really necessary because I have that water fuel separator, and then you also have a little gauze filter in the bottom of the VST. So that's my 10 micron filter that I had just in the middle there. Just eliminated that. It wasn't dirty at all. There was no real anything like sticking out saying that it was no good, but it might just help reduce aerating fuel and cavitation and all that sort of thing. That's all done. I'll just double check the fuel pressure at where my pickup pump is at, and then we'll put a prop on, and hopefully I'll test one of these afternoons after work and I'll get some more footage and we'll continue on with where we're at with the changes we've made. So I've cleaned my map sensor out with map sensor spray. And what I do now is when I run it on the muffs, it's really smoky, and even though the engine isn't hot, my engine temp warning light is beeping on and off. I'll show you. And it's pretty smoky. It just doesn't sound right. So this morning when I went out and it was playing up, my engine temp warning light wasn't flashing like it is now. It's only flashing now since I've sprayed those. My old sensor, I tried that, sprayed it, blew it out with some air. The one that was on the boat that was working, I sprayed it out with map sensor fluid, cleaned it out with air, put it on. Both of them doing the same thing, engine temp warning lights beeping on and off. But as you said, like my lower unit, it's covered in oily muck. Same with my prop, it's very rich. So here we are, we're at the boat ramp. It's Saturday morning. We've made them changes. I've put a 28 pitch chopper on, and we're going to know pretty soon whether or not we've fixed our problem that we were dealing with. Obviously you're seeing on Australia Day morning when I went to take off, it was just lugging and going nowhere. But it's a nice day. The wind's about to pick up, clouds are meant to build, but we're going to come out and see if it does what it's meant to do. Otherwise we'll be back on the trailer just as quick as we came out. And I think I've got about 40 minutes left on these SD cards, so it's time for an episode. honest. We only clip like not even. We weren't hitting speeds we should be hitting when I've got a wide open throttle. So I think I need to have another look at that map sensor, because same as last time when the map sensor went out, I couldn't get over 70 mile an hour. It just foot to the floor. It's just like not doing anything. So I'll try to get my hands on another map sensor and put that on and see if it comes back to life. Might even buy some electrical map sensor cleaner, because I know you can get it for your car. Might try and do that little change, see how it goes. Sorry I couldn't get more footage for you on the water, but gotta love it. Okay, so here we are again after still dealing with this punish of a boat, bogging down and playing up. It's doing all the same characteristics as what it was when it was the map sensor last time. So I've literally spent all night, hours on end, going through old Scream and Fly forums with regards to these typical issues, and I did find one good post in 2009. I don't know what the fella's name is, but he went through 3 map sensors on his, and he was saying that these sensors only have to get the smallest droplet or moisture condensation buildup in that vacuum line and push into the sensor, and they're no good. And he said the only way he fixed this issue was on the vacuum line that comes down off the back of your manifold. Instead of just plugging that vacuum line, if I can get it here, instead of just plugging that vacuum line straight into your map sensor, he said to make a circuit, so like a circle. And so I'm going to have this circle here, and then that top one will go to my map sensor. So if any moisture or condensation does go into this, hopefully it circulates in this pipe here and doesn't get pushed into the sensor. I've borrowed a sensor off a mate's motor, and we're going to put that on, and fingers crossed. I really hope this fixes it. So another thing I've noticed too, because it was throwing my temp warning light, I've just come to check the sensor here on the motor, and as you can see, it's pretty grimy, the earth connections. So I'm going to give those earths a clean up. They're looking like they've got a bit of crap on them. I'll pull that sensor out, give everything a brake clean, and bolt it back on as well, just to try and alleviate and stop any of these sensors throwing codes as well. So here's hoping the changes I've made work out. It's Sunday afternoon, and hopefully we fixed it with that map sensor so I can go to work all week knowing the boat's ready. Well, it got out of the hole better just then, but still not pulling impressive numbers, to say the least. Definitely not pulling the revs at wide open throttle either. Yeah, I just know it can be better than what it is now. Whether my pickup pump has too much fuel pressure, I mean, I've got it set at 3.5, 4 psi. That's pretty much what a pulse pump operates at. So, I mean, all I can think of now is maybe get the injectors cleaned again. It was only probably like 3 times ago that I put some injector cleaner through it with some octane boost, but if it has one injector not spraying right, I suppose it could play up. But when I get home, I might just check the coils as well. Maybe I've got one dodgy coil dropping in and out, or 2, who knows, but that'll be my next check, it's coils. Alright, so on our way back home, not sure if that map sensor's good or not. I thought it sounded heaps better on the muffs at home, but yeah, like I said, just coming up here, not hitting the speeds I usually hit, not hitting the RPM I usually hit. We'll have to just keep chipping away at this piece of shit. Still tinkering on this piece of shit. Massive headache. Gone over so much stuff, but I'll give you a run through again. So I've now replaced the alternator. I've completely replaced the VST. I've tried 2 map sensors. I've now also replaced TPS sensor and calibrated with the multimeter. The TPS is working. While I was putting in the new TPS, I noticed one of these wires, it was sitting there but it wasn't pushed in, so that's an air temp sensor. So I've fixed that, pushed that back together again. But another Captain Obvious moment while I was trying to calibrate the TPS is when I put my foot on the accelerator. Do you notice anything on the motor? That slide front isn't opening. It's obviously not getting enough air that it requires for the fuel that's coming in with the secondaries. So yeah, so I'm gonna have to work out with this here as to why that isn't engaging. And I dare say I might possibly be missing a screw that's fallen out here or vibrated out. So as that pivots up, that turns that, and that should be probably pushing on the accelerator here. So hopefully I can work that out. Alright, so doing our first water test from making those other changes. Obviously I need to keep an eye on it because I put that new TPS sensor on and it was idling quite high and the muff's about 1600. I did put the TPS back in the exact location when I took out the old one, so I got a pen and I marked it perfectly on the shape. We fixed that slide front, so he's hoping that comes to life and does what it's meant to do. Got a camera off the back there, so I'll probably just stop and turn that one on and give you a bit of a different perspective as well. Got the clan here. Say hi, clan. So happy to be boating. Hopefully it does what it's meant to do. Piece of shit. Okay, so after yesterday, Sunday, when I tried going out and it still couldn't get it running right, come home, I contacted all my friends, I picked their brains, sent off a couple of the videos from the footage that I got, and some people come back with some good input. It definitely didn't sound like it was running right. Had multiple people get back to me and tell me that it doesn't sound like it was firing on all cylinders. So today I had a RDO, a day off, so I went over the boat again, and I realised that I wasn't getting spark on all six. The obvious test, it's probably not good for the heart, but I'd grab the lead, pull it off, put it back on, got a shock. But lo and behold, on 1 and 5 pistons, I could pull the plug off and put it on without getting zapped. I did have 2 spare coils there, thanks to my good friend Chris, and I've swapped them over, and I run it on the muffs at home, and sure enough, as soon as I pull the plug off and on, I got zapped. So I'm hoping that we have made some progress. So we're just here at the boat ramp now. We'll take it for a run. I'll set the cameras up on the boat and we'll see if we can make it do what it's meant to do. Right, so here we are, Monday morning, testing, or not morning, afternoon. Got Dan in the old revved up Bullet. He's testing a few props while I'm here to see if I fix this piece of shit. Anything goes wrong, the emergency exits are here, 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 and here, just pretty much anywhere. As long as we get thrown away from the carnage, we'll be right. Just going over the boat again, crossing my T's and dotting my I's. I've managed to get a set of 6 coils off a mate. The motor was running. Also got a pair of ECU packs if I need to try them. But just going over the motor, double checking again, because I have found that 2 of my coils were dodgy. Also doing further inspection, just tugging on these coil pack leads. This one literally just almost fell out, just sitting in there, and they're like rusty. I don't know if you can see that, but obviously that's no good. Like, if that lead's just sitting in there jiggling or dangling. Or there was another one as well on the bottom here. Just a bit dodgy, and the ends of my plug there had a crack in it. Could be losing a bit of spark through there, who knows. So I'm going to go ahead and change them 2 out. Test it again after doing that with the coils before I go testing different ECUs. So update after update. Alright, so here we are back at the ramp again after swapping out 6 coils. We're back down here at the ramp to give it another go to see if it's going to run on all 6. just pulled the boat back in after going out for that little test. I'm not sure if my camera off the back of the boat filmed much, so I didn't check if it had any battery. The boat is going considerably better, definitely pulling over 6,000 RPM now. I'll have to check the dash, but I think my best was approximately 82, 83 miles an hour at around about 6,100 RPM. But I definitely think it needs some calibrating with the TPS sensor. When I hold my foot flat to the floor, it's getting the revs, but it's almost like sometimes it comes to life and it's very snappy, and sometimes it just seems a bit doughy. So I definitely think there's room for improvement with that TPS sensor. Hopefully my mate Chris can come see me with his scan tool, and we'll just double check that it's not throwing any codes, and hopefully with 2 people I can run that multimeter and stand on the accelerator pedal and just finally dial in that TPS sensor and see if it picks it up, makes it a bit more snappy and brings it to life and have a bit more throttle response. That's where we're at. There's some races coming up in Grafton, so that's what I've really been pushing for to get this boat ready for, is to go down and do some circuit racing and yeah, do some main character player 1 shit, get behind the wheel and take you along for the ride. So I told myself every half a dozen runs I'll check these lower units, because we all know I'm the box killer. But I'll just show you, because we like to do routine maintenance and not break our parts. So I'll give you a look at this when I dump the plug. Looks like we're running on water, boys. Well, like I picked that up, we'll have to probably look into getting some new rear main seals, because water's obviously getting in there somehow. Alright, so here we are again, guys. I've put new oil in the gearbox. Don't know why it's pumping water into the gearbox for, but we've drained it, we've put some fresh stuff in it, and obviously I've replaced 5 of the coils. I did have a one that I thought was new off a friend. I've since changed that one out, because in the last video we're roughly hitting about 80 mile, but it wasn't running perfectly on all 6 cylinders. As you could hear in some of the footage, it was popping. I've swapped out the coil that I thought is dodgy, so fingers crossed we've got 6 working coils. I mean, I did test them, had a mate hold them close to the block and went through each one, and each one was throwing a spark, but obviously under load at wide open throttle it was breaking up and it was dropping a cylinder. So here's hoping we've got 6 strong sparking cylinders, do some main character shit, some player 1 shit. That's what it's all about, living the dream. Okay, so don't know if we've made improvements or not. It feels like it's running better. I mean, I'll give you a look at my dash. I don't know how accurate that is. 82.5 mile an hour at 6,321 RPM. I mean, it has 6.4 limiters on it. Whether or not it's clipped that limiter as we got close, I'm not sure. Yeah, up high, it has moments where it feels like it just goes from maybe sitting at that 80 mark and then bang, takes off. Whether or not that has something to do with engine wise cutting in and out, or maybe trim. So I don't have a trim gauge on this at the moment, but I definitely need to hook one up to find that sweet spot in the trim zone. So that will probably be my next thing to look into as well, and just still continue going over my checks on the engine and seeing what I can look at to make sure everything is running right. I don't know whether to be happy or confused as to whether or not it's running right. And I don't want to go fanging up and down the river on my own. I'd prefer to have someone around in case something happened, or I don't go out doing things unsafely, you know. There's no one else on the water then when I was having a few little blasts. So yeah, we'll go back to the drawing board and keep chipping away. Okay, so back home again, just on the drive home having a think. When I took the 2.5 litre off and put the 3 litre on, I did put this motor on accidentally one bolt hole low in the jack plate. So as you can see here, I can definitely take this motor up 2 holes to bolt into this hole, which will then cross-reference with all my markings where I've taken data with different props at different heights, because at the moment, with it being in the lower bolt hole, my jack plate is maxed out. I can't go any higher, and running this motor at this height, obviously I've got my laser set up, so you can see on that pad height there, the prop shaft is currently in relation to the laser. So my motor's 2.5 inches below pad height, or 65 mil for those in Australia. So that's considerably low. Like, I think my sweet spot with this boat when I had the 2.5 on it was anywhere at 35 to 45 mil below pad, which is probably roughly an inch and a quarter maybe. So I can definitely, in my next changes, unbolt the motor, raise it up a bolt hole, and then start playing with my measurements on the jack plate again. And for you guys in America, this Allison GT20, they were made in Australia. A guy called Bert Hines got the molds and started producing them in Australia. And this one, she's solid, mate. It's like a German tank. We weighed this and it weighed 540 kilos without a motor, which equivalates to just over 1,100 pounds. I know you guys in America, you're pulling dash over 100 mile an hour in these, but your boat is half the weight. To get 83 miles an hour out of a boat twice as heavy of the race produced model of these, it's not bad going. Like, we're slowly fine tuning and dialing it in. My prop, I cleaned the prop and my skeg before we went out because it was absolutely putrid and covered in black soot from it not running right. It's no longer black, and the prop, it has a little bit of exhaust residue there, but it's not as bad. So that's telling me the tune's quite possibly on par with where it needs to be. I'm still hesitant to feel as though my map sensor is working at 100%. I have ordered a genuine brand new map sensor from Mercury, but I won't get that until next week. Make sure that we do have a 100% spot on running map sensor doing what it's meant to do. We'll be ready to keep testing and making those other changes. So it might be a long drawn out video, but I hope all this troubleshooting helps someone in the future who's pulling their hair out and having similar issues to what I've been having. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate all you guys supporting and following along. A lot of you have messaged me asking me when I'm bringing out another video. It's just life, you know. I don't want to go into my personal life too much, but I love you guys for following along. You know, yous inspire me to keep doing what I'm doing, so thank you. Hats off to you. God bless.